So our final task on this course is to publish our application to Azure. And what we're going to do is do exactly that. But what you'll obviously need to achieve this is an Azure account. Now, I'm not going to go through the process of signing in, setting up an Azure account, but one of the things you'll need, of course, is a Microsoft account to do so. And if you've never used Azure before, then you will be able to make use of a free trial account, which lasts for a year. And I believe you get $200 worth of free credit and a certain monthly allowance as well. But I used up my free trial some time ago, so I'm kind of stuck with a pay-as-you-go account. And if you've used up your free trial, then you do have to add a credit card, enable billing, all of that sort of thing. But what we're going to set up now is completely free, even if you're on a pay-as-you-go account. There are some dev and test resources we can use so that we don't have to actually pay to test this application. So I'm going to presume that you're on this particular page. We're at the portal.azure.com and we have access to the dashboard and the ability to create resources in Azure. And what we'll start with is we'll go to this resource groups and we'll put all of our resources inside a group, which makes it really easy to clean up after ourselves if we want to delete the database, the SQL server, the app service that we're creating to serve our applications. What I'm going to do is create a resource group, and like I say, unfortunately I'm on the pay-as-you-go service, but like I say, this is going to be completely free regardless. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a resource group called Activities Resource Group and stick to the default region and just click on Review and Create and then click on Create. And this has been created, so I'm just going to go to the resource group that has been created. And what we want to do here is add resources to this. So I'm just going to click on Create Resources. And what we want to look for here is inside databases, we want the one that's a web app plus SQL. And this is going to give us everything that we need to deploy our application and create a database, of course, as well. So I'm just going to select this one and click on Create. And then we need to give it some configuration details. Now I'm going to pick the name Reactivities, and hopefully this is available, and it is. And this needs to be unique because this is going to be the address of our site. It's going to be the app name followed by azurewebsites.net. And then I'll select the existing group and assign it to the Reactivities resource group. And then we get to choose how much we're prepared to pay for this particular hosting of this application. So what I'm going to do is we don't want to select any of the default plans they give us, as these will not be free. So I'm going to create a new app service plan, and I'm just going to call it Reactivities App Service and stick with a default location, and I'm going to change the pricing tier. And we've got an option for dev and test, and we've got an option to select a free pricing tier. Now, it's not going to be the most powerful web app you're ever going to see, but it's perfectly fine for what we're doing to test our application. So I'm just going to select this and click Apply and click OK. And then we need to configure our SQL database settings. And I'm just going to create a new database, and I'm just going to call it Reactivities, the same name that I'm using in my connection string for the MySQL server. And then we can configure a target server for this. And we'll create a new server. And I'm just going to use Reactivities. And this also needs to be unique because it's assigned a namespace here of databasewindows.net. The server admin login, I'm just going to stick with app user. And I'm going to give it a password. And this is just going to be a weak password for now. That I'll come back and change later on. But because I'm going to be displaying this password in the connection strings, then I'll just make it the normal password we've been using, and I'll come back and change it later. The location I'll just set to US Central, the same as the app service that we've created. And then I'll click Select. And be careful here because again we're going to select a pricing tier for this. And this one is going to be quite expensive, I think. It's £317 a month. to run this particular SQL server, but we do have other options here. So I'm just going to select the more basic options, and we do get a free version of this. And if we look at the description of the free tier, we'll have 5 DTUs and a mere 32 megabytes of shared storage. So that's not going to last very long. And it's also a free database trial that's going to end in 346 days, after which it will be upgraded to basic. So do please read what it says, because it may not be the same offering that I get on your particular screen. So I'm just going to select this one and click apply and click select. And we can also enable application insights, which can be useful to troubleshoot and debug our application. And what I'll do is I'll just select .NET Core and just click on recommended and not worry about anything else inside here, but click apply. And with this configuration in, we can just click create. And at this point, you might want to go and make a cup of tea or something, because this is going to take about 5 minutes or so for it to create all of our resources. So I'm going to pause the video and just come back once it's completed. Okay, and that really does take about 5 to 10 minutes or so to create all of these resources. So I'm just going to go to the resource group again, now that we have all of these created. And what we should see inside here is we've got our application insights, we have our SQL server, we've got our app service, we've got our SQL database, and our app service plan as well. And there's a couple of things I'm going to do here. First of all, I'm going to go to the SQL server. And all I'm going to do here is just go to the firewall settings. And what we want to do is take our client IP address and just allow this through the firewall, as it can be useful to be able to connect to the Azure SQL database directly from our client, and it certainly can help with troubleshooting as well. And I'm just going to save this firewall change, and that's okay. And then I'm just going to go back to the resource group, and we want to go to our app service next. And what we should be able to do is browse to this particular URL at the moment and see the default page that Azure gives us, just to make sure that our website is started and accessible. So I'm just going to browse to this, and we'll see the default page it provides. And obviously we haven't deployed our code yet, so this is what we'd expect. And there's one more thing we want to get from here as well, and that's our connection string. So I'm just going to go back to the resource group again, and this time we'll click on the SQL database. And what we want to get from here is our database connection string. And I'm just going to copy this into my clipboard. And we'll make use of this in the next lesson. And what we're going to do is actually deploy our application to Azure and see it running there. And we'll take a look at that next.